What up, Keep It Real fam? Hope everybody's doing well. Welcome back to another video. So in today's video, I just wanted to talk about a comment that I saw in regards to growth and just letting go of your old self and how it can be comfortable to be the person that you are right now, essentially. And so first things first, going into this video, I kind of just want to talk about how growth itself is painful. Like, you can't grow without having to necessarily look at the bad parts of your life, because if it wasn't a weakness, it wasn't an area that needed improvement, then you wouldn't really need to grow in that aspect of your life. And so growth usually takes place in the parts of ourselves that are ugly, that are hard to look at, that are hard to face. And so even bringing awareness to where we need to grow can sometimes be painful, because it can almost feel like you're betraying your old self. It could almost feel like you're saying who you are now isn't good enough. It depends on your perspective towards it. You know, whether you say, hey, it's okay to be this person. That's kind of where self-love has to factor in, and why I say love every version of yourself on the way to becoming who you want to be, because it's okay to become aware of the parts of yourself that may need healing, may need fixing, that you may need to become stronger in. And sometimes it can feel like you're almost like betraying the comfort of being where you are to become somebody who you're uncertain of what exactly the world's going to get you from being that person. You know, there's almost an uncertainty to change when we change ourselves, because we don't know if that new version or that new person that we become will be accepted by the rest of the world. Because when you've been a people pleaser for so long, when you've been a version of yourself that you feel has gotten you accepted, when, you know, people see you as this type of person, and then you decide to almost want to switch that up, you're like, is it worth it? Because you're unsure of what all you're going to lose, or, you know, what's going to happen basically once you become that person. And so what you have to realize is that growth is usually going to take place from the negatives of life. You know, we grow from failure, we grow from mistakes, we grow from the negative parts of life, adversities, challenges, different things like that. Like, if your life is constantly on a high, if your life is constantly going so well, so perfect, you're getting everything right, you'll never see a need to grow, because you'll always be thinking, oh, I'm getting all these good things, so that must mean I'm living my life the correct way and that I don't need to change anything. And so what you have to realize about growth is that, you know, it's going to come from the negative and the bad of life, because it's going to cause you to reflect. It's going to say, I got these results, I got this bad thing, but I don't want that. That doesn't feel well. You know, I don't like the feeling that is giving me. That's painful. That hurts. Whatever it might be. You know, it's going to cause you to reflect. It's going to cause you to think, why did I get this result? How can I not get this result in the future? How can I avoid this circumstance down the road and stuff like that? And so you have to realize in those reflections is how you grow. It's how you decide, okay, I'm going to do this, make this decision moving forward. I'm going to set this boundary. I don't want these type of people around me. It's how you set your standards and stuff. Like, all those things come into place. Like, the foundation of who you build yourself into essentially comes from your negative circumstances. And so, yes, growth is going to be painful, but that pain and that discomfort of growing is necessary for you to become somebody that is better than who you are in this moment, in order for you to live a more peaceful or more happy life. And so, although it might be uncomfortable, we also have to realize, like, it's uncomfortable until it's not. And so change and growth and, you know, living a new lifestyle, letting go of certain habits, letting go of the life we always lived or allowed ourselves to live, you know, it will be uncomfortable to let go of until it's not. And so what we have to realize is, like, who we are in this moment, we haven't always been that person. And there was a point in time where we changed, or, you know, we made some tweaks in our life, and it might have been uncomfortable for a moment, but it was until it became the new normal for us that we got comfortable with it. And so what you have to realize with growth and with change and being intentional about it is that, yes, it will be uncomfortable at first until it's not. It will be uncomfortable until it's comfortable. And so really all you're doing is adapting to a new reality, adapting to a new way of living. And sometimes that takes a month. Sometimes that might take a year. It's no different from, losing somebody out of your life, or, having to break up with somebody, or going through a breakup, something like that, and you having to adapt to the new reality of that person no longer being in your life. For the first couple months, for the first couple weeks, it's uncomfortable, it's painful, but then eventually at a certain point in time, it's something you don't think about. It's something you become comfortable with. It's no different from a habit. When you first started getting in the gym, you went 1 day, 2 days, and then you had to get consistent and comfortable with that. And then you started going 3 days, and that was uncomfortable and and you had to be intentional about it until it was on autopilot, essentially. And so that's all change really is. It's going through the process of building new habits, making certain tweaks in our life, doing things differently from how we've always done it in our past, because we learn essentially a better way of living our life. Some of us have been in this, some of you guys have been in this routine of you for years always been doing the same thing over and over. You've been cooking the same way. You've been having the same friends. You've been communicating the same way. You've been a lonely person, or not a lonely person, but a introvert and stuff like that, where you stay in the house and stuff. And there comes a point in time where you want to get to a certain point in life, and you realize who you are in this moment won't be able to get you there. Whether that's, a career, whether that's you wanting to get into content creation, whether that's you wanting to make more friends, or get into new hobbies, wanting to find a new happiness in life, or, find something to challenge yourself. You realize like who you are in this moment won't allow you to be that person. I always tell people, like, comfort doesn't mean safety. I think a lot of us, we misunderstand like being comfortable and thinking it's a safe place to be, a safe place to remain. Some of us get so comfortable in life to the point that we never reach our full potential. Some people get so comfortable in life to the point that they miss out on their purpose. Some people get so comfortable in life to the point that they miss out on the life that God had planned for them and stuff like that, because they allowed themselves to settle in where they are, and they stopped growing because they became comfortable with it, and they no longer wanted to challenge themselves. They no longer wanted to go through the pain and the difficulties of growing and making change and things like that. I always tell people, like, look at change how you used to look at, school when you were younger. At least I looked at school like this when I was younger. When I was in, 4th, 3rd grade, I have older siblings, and my sibling would have a tutor come over, and my brother was in like middle school or like high school or something like that. And so he used to have his tutor come over, and they would be discussing math. And so I would hear them doing the math problems, and then sometimes I'll go over there and look at it and stuff like that. I'll be like, oh, this looks complicated. At one point in time, algebra looked complicating. When you were, in middle school or you were in elementary school, algebra looked like it was impossible. It looked like, something you would never be able to learn. It looked like something you would never be able to do in your life. But it's like, as you level up in life, you become more comfortable. You see that, I am capable of changing. I am capable of stepping into the unknown. I am capable of, adapting to a new way of life. It's no different from at one point in time, you might have transferred schools and had to go through the process of finding new friends. You had that thought, what if I never am able to replace my old friends and stuff like that? What if I'm never able to let go of the old people in my life or find people like them again? And it's like, you have all these different worries, all these different doubts. But when you actually are like forced, or you place yourself out into that unknown with school, it was a force. You were forced to move up and stuff, and you were forced to learn. And then as you started learning, you started realizing, oh, it's not as bad as I thought. It's not as bad as I previously made it out to be. And so you'll come to find out in life, like, as you place yourself in the unknown of, moving up and leveling yourself up for the better, to become a better you, to make positive change within your life, you're capable of handling all those different situations in which you previously allowed yourself to fear. You're capable of stepping into the unknown and figuring it out as you move throughout that journey. A lot of you guys think you have to have it all figured out, or you have to have it all planned out before you actually start the journey. And that's why a lot of you guys have paralyzed yourself where you are, being the person that you are, because you want to have everything mapped out. You want the most certainty that you can possibly get, which is technically a human need. Like, we want certainty basically in our life, because it makes us feel comfortable. And a lot of people fear uncertainty because they don't know what to expect, and they don't feel they're in control of their life, which, again, like, you only are comfortable with where you are now because you know everything that it gets you. You know the routine you're in, you know the people that are in your life. You basically like could predict everything that's going on around you. But when you start to make change, you aren't able to predict who's going to be in your life. You aren't able to predict where you're going to be in life. You aren't able to predict, you know, what's going to happen essentially. And so a lot of you guys, you're in a space where you're almost resisting doing the work that it takes to create change. And that's the painful part of change. It's doing the work that we've always allowed ourselves to avoid, that we have always ran away from essentially. Because some of you guys, letting go of your old self means letting go of old habits, means finally letting go of that relationship, means finally finding new friends, means finally, you know, not being a lazy person anymore. You know, a lot of you guys have essentially had crutches in life to where you've relied on other people, you've relied on all these different comforts and coping mechanisms to the point that you understand that in order to reach a new level, in order to become a better you, in order to improve yourself and grow in life, you got to start getting rid of those things. And you are more so fear the responsibility that you will now have to take on in order to create the changes that you know you need to make. And so you might have had a crutch where you were constantly depending on your parents or your friends to lead you. You might have this crutch where you always made excuses, or you allowed yourself to be lazy, or you cheated your way through school or something like that. Like, you had all these different crutches. You might have had this habit of just being able to drink and smoke whenever you felt any type of emotions, and you ran away from your emotions. You might have always just had people around you and settled for whoever would accept you, even whether they were good for you or not, just to avoid being alone. And so in order to level up, in order to, you know, change your environment and stuff like that, sometimes you got to go through a process of cutting people out and being alone for a little bit. But then you fear loneliness because, you know, when you're alone, you get caught up in your thoughts, and you don't want to face your thoughts that you've always been running away from. You don't want to face the realities of your past and where you need to grow and where you need to make change. You know, what's wrong with you? A lot of you guys have avoided responsibility for so long. You know, you've surrounded yourself around people who constantly support the person that you are, to the point that, again, you never see a need to change because everything seems to be going positively. You seem to always be winning. But then when you actually surround yourself around people who are good for you, who give you constructive criticism, who don't suck up to you, who don't always tell you, oh, everything's going to be okay, you know, you're okay, yada, yada, you know, you understand that, you know, you got to do some self-reflection, that you'll have to start changing, that you'll have to start, you know, picking yourself back up from your mistakes and not having everybody else do everything for you, getting rid of your sense of entitlement. Like, whatever that looks like in your life, some of you guys fear doing the necessary work that it takes to create change and actually grow yourself as a person into a better version of you. And so my question to you is, what are you allowing to keep yourself from making the necessary changes or doing the necessary work that you need to do? You know, what sacrifices are you avoiding making? What changes are you predicting and projecting the future to hold that's creating a fear within yourself that's almost paralyzing you? And also, what is it costing you to remain where you are? I think that's a big thing that we ignore. You know, a lot of us are costing ourselves our purpose. We're costing ourselves a better future for ourselves that we actually deserve. You know, we're costing ourselves the relationships in which we might be missing out on, the opportunities that are waiting to present themselves, the adversities in which take us to that next level. You know, what are you avoiding? What work are you, you know, fearful of actually taking on? You know, what thoughts or what mental battles are you trying to prevent yourself from having to go through? What realities are you not willing to face that is paralyzing you in the situation that you are? Because you have to understand, like, you want to change because you understand that where you are almost isn't good enough, or it's not the best that you can be, essentially. Like, although you're comfortable here, you understand that it's not where you ultimately want to be for the rest of your life. And in order to create change, you have to do things differently. You have to let go of certain people, certain habits, your way of living life, essentially, in order to, you know, create some type of change, because nothing changes unless you change yourself. And so I say, like, what is it costing you to remain where you are? Because a lot of you guys, you're comfortable where you are, but you're not happy where you are. You know, you're not at peace. You might be experiencing pain where you are. You know, you might be an introvert who just sits in their room all day, where you're depressed, but you're comfortable because you've gotten that cycle of just being, you know, to yourself in your thoughts, you know, allowing yourself to just close up and not express yourself, not find help. Like, you understand, like, you're comfortable where you are because you've been that person for so long, but you're not happy where you are. You know, you're not satisfied, you're not at peace, you're going through all these different battles where you are, but you don't care to take on new battles that you aren't certain of or that you don't know exactly how to manage. And so ultimately, to answer that comment, like, yes, change is scary. Yes, change and growth are uncomfortable, but in the end, they're always necessary. We have to understand that you have to become comfortable being uncomfortable, because that's the only way in which you can really reach your full potential. And that's the only way in which you can fulfill your purpose here on this earth. That's the only way you can fulfill the purpose that God has for you. You know, there's no, especially because a lot of you guys are young, like, you aren't at that max point. You aren't at your best self. And so to allow yourself to remain where you are right now, you know, if I allow myself to remain as my 22-year-old self, you know, I'm missing out on so many years of potential and like growth and possibilities and things that I don't even know. I may not even be able to imagine right now. I'm missing out on all of those because I allowed myself to stay in my comfort zone and remain the same person. You know, in order to elevate yourself, in order to become that best version of yourself, you have to understand what it costs you and what it requires in order to become that version of yourself. Yes, right now you're comfortable being who you are because you've been that person for so long, but you also have to understand that who you are in this moment is only capable of taking you so far. And you have to make that decision of whether you're okay with not reaching your max potential because you don't want to deal with a little bit of uncertainty and a little bit of fear and a little bit of discomfort, or if you're going to take those necessary risks because you understand like what all you're missing out on in the end. Because I promise you, one day you're just going to look back and you're going to regret all the time you wasted living in fear, all the time you wasted in overthinking and trying to be perfect and, you know, not being willing to make certain sacrifices and certain decisions, because you're going to see like other people elevating in their life, and it's going to make you feel behind at one point and feel like you missed out on living, and instead you were just existing in comfort. But, you know, I appreciate you guys for tuning into the video. I hope you learned a thing or two. Be sure to comment down below some takeaways you had from the video and the things that you learned, as well as some videos you guys want to see in the future. You know, I want to hear from you guys what content you want, what content resonates with you guys, what questions you might have that you would believe I'm capable of answering and things like that. Put out quality videos in the future that you guys actually want to listen to and want to hear. But, you know, go cop a hoodie on the website at willkeepitreal.com. Use code WKeepItReal at checkout, all caps. And yeah, like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notices. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.